Good evening. Welcome to the Glazov Gang. Our intellectual and tough gang members this evening, Nonie Darwish, modern-day freedom fighter and the author of the new book, The Devil We Don't Know, The Dark Side of Revolutions in the Middle East. Sayet, America's #1 comedian and a former member of the B Team.
As a reference to last week's guest.
And Tommi Trudeau, producer of films and music videos and an unapologetic member of the leftist faith.
How many times do I have to tell you just liberal will do?
Okay, but we have to let the viewers know your profession. And can I introduce, what is his name?
Mr. Snugglebun is here for me, Glazov.
Right, and how would I introduce him?
He doesn't need any introduction.
He doesn't need any introduction.
No, because he's not here for you or anyone else. He's here to give me a little support. Because I don't have any support, obviously, from the right, because I'm on the left. And with all the vilification and things like this, I need a little support.
Okay. Tommi Trudeau, Nonie Darwish, and Sayet, welcome to the program.
Thanks, Jamie.
My
pleasure.
Let us begin with Nonie's fascinating and most important book for our time, The Devil We Don't Know. Nonie Darwish, I would like to begin with a theme in your book, and this segment is called The End of Islam ? Nonie, you say that despite this horrible conflict we're in, despite the fact that we are losing on many fronts, that you believe that Islam is decaying from within.
Absolutely. Actually, the West is, yes, it's decaying, but Islam is also decaying. Islam is having a hard time sustaining its lies, its oppression in this world today. That's why revolutions don't work, and they don't produce any freedom and democracy. I'm predicting that Islam will eventually collapse on itself, and the reason is you can lie to some people some of the time, but you cannot lie to all people all the time. Islam really survives on distortions and fabrications. Their #1 enemy of Islam is the truth. And that's why when you speak the truth, just simple, whenever I speak on college campuses, Jamie, all I do is quote Sharia law. All I do is quote some facts that are in Muslim scriptures. I'm not creating these facts. And when I do it, all hell breaks loose. Why are Muslims so offended when people actually quote their religion? And it's all because they don't like the truth.
Sayet, but it looks, despite what Nonie is saying, that Islam is on the offensive, that it is winning up till now. What do you think of her perspective in correlation with what we see unfolding before our eyes?
Look, Islam is unsustainable, except through violence and oppression. Mm-hmm. But it doesn't take very much to have violence and oppression. You don't need to run factories, you just need to kill. You don't need to distribute food well, you just need to kill. So what concerns me is, you say the West is decaying, and in a sense we are. I think it's easier, because look at Afghanistan. What do they have to create a Muslim Afghanistan? Nothing. How do you create a Western Christian society in America? You have to have all kinds of wonderful things. So I think a deteriorated Islam can survive. A deteriorated Christianity and Judaism concerns me.
And what's so interesting is...
But they cannot survive on their own. They have to feed off a successful
Well, that's
culture.
what I'm saying, that Muslims are coming to the West in large numbers to live off our standard of living and our freedom, but yet they want to destroy us. Tommi, how do you see this?
The dark age of theocracy never lasts. It didn't last with the Roman Catholic Church after the fall of Rome. Islam will cave in on itself. And for one reason. Islam loves to rattle their sabers. But the thing is, those sabers are all made in China. The reason why is religious fervor, theocracies don't produce anything other than painful ignorance.
You know,
And so-
tell me.
Just a sec. Okay, yeah,
And
go
so
ahead.
you can't survive running off of ignorance because the whole thing will eventually implode on itself.
Tommy's half right.
But won't that happen? But won't they do a lot of destruction, perpetrate a lot of destruction until that happens?
No, they will perpetrate a lot of destruction on themselves.
Oh, no,
So
but
God
they're doing it around the world.
But they're perpetrating destruction not only on their own women.
the Coptic Christians.
Yeah. But you say it's also going to implode.
It's
right?
going to implode on itself. The Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development has some very significant stats on illiteracy in the Muslim world, and they're mind-boggling. But we'll just take first the richest countries. Kuwait, very rich country, 91% illiteracy rate. Saudi Arabia, extremely mind-boggling rich, yet 78% illiteracy rate. The United Arab Emirates, extremely rich beyond our comprehension, yet 86% illiteracy rate. And then it gets worse.
Well, look, they don't
Societies cannot last like this.
But wait
they
a
will
minute.
implode on themselves.
Okay, but wait a minute. When Muhammad and they spread that violence in the beginning, they took over so many nations and peoples. Do they really have to read when they just have Mein Kampf? They say that Mein Kampf is one of the most popular books in their cultures.
Because yes, it can survive. I'm sorry, it can survive in a very tiny microcosm of the Arabian Peninsula. But now they're trying to go worldwide, and you cannot run a worldwide organization solely based on ignorance.
Okay,
Actually,
look, I'm just saying that they
ignorance
look like they're
works.
taking over Western Europe quite
Ignorance
successfully.
works.
and this wouldn't be the first time they tried. They were very successful.
Let Nonie and then you go. Go ahead. Nonie.
Ignorance works for the Islamic society that's concentrating on jihad, because that is the motivation. If you're producing and you're a successful society, you don't need to do jihad.
Mm-hmm.
And the Arabian Peninsula culture, which is based on jihad, based on raiding. This is a raiding culture.
Raiding, confiscating for yourself, so you don't have to create.
You don't have
you
to
steal. You don't create, you steal.
Well, it was the same with communism, right?
Of course. That's why communism could only survive so long as they then took over another nation, raped and pillaged it, whereas America never had to do that. Let me just respond to what you said a little bit earlier. I know Tommy is an anti-theology guy. And the
theocracy.
And theology. He does not care for religion at all.
I believe someone said something very profound, because I believe in God. I'm spiritual, but someone said something that just sums up what I believe. She said, "I believe spirituality to be a strength, but religion to be a weakness."
Right. And I make the point I wanted to make originally.
Okay.
Well, and because I don't agree with that statement.
Yeah, I disagree.
The problem is, religion without science it leaves you in the dark ages, leaves you primitive. It doesn't leave you anything to leave the Garden of Eden or science without religion leads to things like the Holocaust. There's no reason. The Holocaust was simply Darwin's theory of survival of the fittest, taken because there was no God to say to these people, stop. So a godless society is just as horrible. What was great about Western civilization was that we found a balance. And what's great about America is we found the balance between science and religion.
Okay, just a second. The Soviet Union replaced the Ten Commandments with class hatred, and we saw what that resulted in. Now, I want to move on to 2 points. But Tommy, go ahead.
I have to call you out really quick on religious fervor in America and the insanity and ignorance.
I don't see it as
Does
such.
anyone know what Geron is?
No.
Very
Make
interesting.
the point quickly, please.
Geron is a magnificent company that was working with stem cells, and they were on the brink of a new breakthrough with stem cells where the spinal cord would heal itself. Paralyzed people would walk again. And guess what? The religious right stopped it because they think it's more godly to throw the placenta away than to send
That's
it.
just not true.
That is true.
No, it's not true. I'll tell you what the truth
Financing
is.
of this, but it didn't stop private financing.
Okay, listen, maybe we'll get into that
which
in
pulled
the
the rug right out from
Maybe
under
we'll
it.
get into that in the second segment. I want to stick to Islam for a minute. In Egypt, just recently, in Egypt, the Islamist parliament will soon, it appears, legally allow a man to have sex with his dead wife for up to 6 hours after she died.
dies.
Where are the women's studies departments across the Western world? Where is the humanitarian, quote-unquote, left denouncing this kind of bizarre barbarism?
It is. It never stops to amaze me. There's a fatwa every week. That's crazy. And,
But here's what I'm wondering, Nonie.
Moderate Muslims are not even. They don't even care.
But what about the liberals in
this is
America,
why-
the feminists
Yeah.
in America? That's what
Yeah.
Jamie's
But
question
Nonie,
is.
what I'm also wondering, but this is where I'm pessimistic, is that even if the moderate Muslims are not denouncing this
Yes.
thing, how can we confront this threat that we face when even
Yeah.
the humanitarian, quote unquote, I say liberals in the West won't denounce this? But here's what I'm wondering: in the court of law, what's going to happen there? They're going to
It's
say,
ridiculous.
"Oh, well, it was 8 hours."
You need a timer.
You know, they're going to have
You
a
need
timer. If it's 8 hours.
You need to have sex in
What
front
did
of
you
a
think
clock.
about this? Are you willing?
It's
Are you
just
going to
another-
denounce? Are you
it's-
going to denounce your leftist comrades for not denouncing this kind of stuff?
I'm not going to denounce my community by any means. However,
Why not?
Someone
What
on,
if it's
as,
silence
as
in the face of
someone on the
oppression?
left, I say that is absolutely ludicrous and another example of the insanity of radical religion.
It's not
And
Tommy,
I
stop right
denounce
there.
it.
How about the
Islam.
silence?
Jews don't do that. Christians don't do that.
Not all
You
religions
slander
are equal.
all religions because of
About
Islam.
radical religion.
What? Stop.
And
This,
what,
no,
and what
no.
other what radical Amish do you know who have sex with their wives after they're dead for 4
God
hours?
only knows
Listen,
what
none.
Westboro
Listen,
Baptist
you know what?
Church
Okay,
is
Wait,
doing.
listen, wait, one
You
second.
keep going
Tommy,
back
you kept doing that. You kept doing that. Okay,
Yeah.
go ahead. Ian. Go ahead. Go
You
ahead.
keep going back to this one little boogeyman of all their 87% of Americans believe in God. Something like 78% of us believe in an organized religion, and
Yeah.
you can only refer to the Westboro Baptist Church, which, by the way, doesn't have sex with their wives after they're dead for 4 hours. So even the boogeyman you
6 hours.
invent. Oh, I
Okay, just wait.
Yeah, you have to get
Tommy,
it.
do you see that every time we bring up a sin or violence in an adversary culture, there's an instinctive need to apply a moral equivalency? So I'm going to tell you what you're doing when you do that. Imagine during the Second World War. Listen to me here, Tom.
Yes?
During the Second World War, imagine there was an operation to rescue the Jews of Auschwitz and Treblinka and Dachau. And right before they went to rescue those Jews that were going to die in those gas chambers, somebody said, "Hey, wait a minute. There's also anti-Semitism in Brazil." And everybody said, "All right, wrap it up. Let's not do it." This is what you do.
Yeah.
When we're
No.
mentioning what's happening
No.
in the Islamic world,
Yeah,
you
you-
immediately
That is not
start
what
bringing
I
up
am
stuff.
talking about.
Start- let's stop talking about
No,
Christians.
what I am
Let's stop
talking
talking
about-
the West.
what I am
Why
talking
won't you
about-
denounce this?
What I am talking about, even though I believe it to be an absolute insanity, unless you want to jump in with an all-out catechismic war against
We're not
Islam
saying to
itself,
go to war.
What should we
How
do?
about
Should we
starting-
pull
wait a
out?
minute, Tommy, start
Okay,
with
should we pull out the
condemnation.
hydrogen
Let's
bombs and
start
start
with
bombing?
No, Tommy.
Let's
Time out,
send the
time out,
codes.
time out.
We'll send the codes right now. We'll have a
Tommy,
we'll have
okay,
a massive
Tom,
Why
lobby
is your
against the
leftist
Middle
community
East.
silent when little girls are being brutalized and mutilated in the Islamic world because of Islamic gender apartheid? Why won't your leftist community stand up for
I'll
that?
tell you the answer.
You know,
Because
Tommy,
it's an insane powder keg. It's 1.6
I'll tell you there
billion
isn't.
people who hold to a religious
There's one
fervor.
thing I wanna
Not
ask-
all are radical, but many are. At least 200
Your
million are
silence
radical.
is shameless. We'll be
but
back.
I want to tell you something. What about, girls have to be
Well-
married at 9 years old, and even after she's dead, she still has to give sex to her husband.
It's obscene.
6
Well,
hours
and your
after.
community is
obscene.
quiet
why,
because of it.
why doesn't the liberal community speak up? What's your opinion?
They
Because
do
he's-
say things
They don't
like
say
that
anything.
are
We'll be back
obscene.
tomorrow night for the
Yes,
second
they
segment
do.
of the Glazov Gang.
No.